Welcome to the Inspiration Hour with Luce in Mac, as we inspire by sharing real people's stories and their exhilarating journeys. We all learn by sharing our gifts and talents through the power of talking with one guest at a time. Get cozy, get your favorite nighttime drink, and let's get ready to be wowed with inspiration.
Buenas noches, mi gente. Hi, everyone. It's Luz. It's another inspirational hour with Luz. I'm so happy. Happy Labor Day. I know for some, this is like the end of summer. And also, we have to acknowledge and commemorate and celebrate all the hard workers out there. Today is not just about celebrating the last days of summer, but celebrating all the hard working individuals that are in our lives, not just people that are out in the workforce, but our mothers, people that do community service and volunteer, even all the way to church workers. We have amazing people that keep this country running, and we should acknowledge them. So we celebrate you today. So happy Labor Day. But today is Monday, and it's an exciting time because we have another inspirational hour with one of my favorite people, and just a fave, and I'm so excited. So before I bring on our guest, I want to tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Maira Hernández. She's an award-winning author for her book titled Aventura, Amor y Tacos, straddling the best of both worlds, from bailes in the rancho to meetings in the ballroom. She helps people reconnect with their raíces in order to use the lessons from their cultural heritage to empower themselves to be a badass individual in every part of their lives. And Maira is not just a badass author, she's also a friend and colleague that I share so much with. And we have been also mentoring each other through our journeys as authors. But, I'm going to brag a little bit about her through our conversation. So just get ready, get cozy, and let's learn with Maira. So, Maira, are you there?
Hi, Luz. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi. Welcome.
Thank
How are you? Woo, we're on.
I am so excited because I know just the conversations that we have, I'm just so excited to be here. So thank you for having me. I'm excited about this conversation and just to share, about both of our journeys.
Yeah. I mean, so a couple months ago, we had an Instagram Live. I feel like it was a hit. It really gave people not only your perspective as a writer, but also how you started your journey as a writer and how you think, this is why heritage is important to me, and this is why I put it down on paper. And I think we all have those moments in our lives that we want to be ourselves, but we don't know how to bring that about and how to celebrate our culture. And you do that beautifully in your life. You never miss the opportunity to celebrate your heritage and let people know when they befriend you, like, this is why I'm important. This is why I love Mexico. I'm from Mexico. And this is what you don't know and what you should know. And I feel like I wish I knew more people that did that, if that makes sense. And it's okay for the people that still don't know a lot about their background. But once you know your background, don't you feel like it's like a party every day? You know what I mean?
Exactly. That is exactly right. And I think the reason I do it, I feel, is because I love my culture and I want people to love wherever it is that they come from, even if it is different than mine. And if I'm celebrating where I come from, I hope to also celebrate others. So that's the main reason that I do it, because you're so right about, it being a party. That's the kind of culture I come from. So why not, celebrate everybody else's?
I mean, Mexico did bring a lot of culture to the United States. We have Taco Tuesdays. It was a lot inspired by Mexican culture. And what else do we have from Mexico? We have Dia de los Muertos that is now official. It's almost like I'm pretty sure it's going to be like Move Away Halloween and now Dia de los Muertos. Like it's going to be a merger of both, even though a lot of people do celebrate both. And I think you guys have another one that is very popular that is being celebrated here in the United States, not just in Mexico. You know what I mean? Is there another one that I'm forgetting?
I'm trying to think of, I mean, there's so many because I feel like when I was in Mexico, we celebrated something every month. So the one that's upcoming is Dia de la Independencia. Then we celebrate El Dia de la Virgen. Then we have,
Yeah.
Las Posadas in December. And
Yeah. So Las Posadas to me is something I've heard of a lot. And I know like a lot of like, I'm Caribbean, I'm Dominican. So in a lot of Spanish cultures, there's a big celebration for like end of November all the way till Christmas. And then even after Christmas, because then we celebrate Los Tres Reyes Magos, which is like the three kings. So I want to know, and I'm so glad that we just touching right from, jump about the party things. What was it about all those commemorative holidays that like shaped you? Because you brought a lot of those traditions here with you. Like you didn't leave it just because a lot of your family members were there. You guys still practice it. So how did you continue practicing those traditions?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think I was lucky enough that I grew up going to Mexico, so it was fun. It was a fun childhood, going to Mexico for the Posadas, the Reyes Magos, the Three Wise King, and doing all of that. It was just so much fun as a kid. But then I kind of grew up, and then I participated in a lot of the American stuff, right? And I didn't even realize, like, oh, what about the Posadas? When was the last time I celebrated that? It wasn't even like a question. It just happened living in the U.S. So I think looking back at it, like in my childhood, I recognize that my parents and my aunts and my uncles who live in the same block as me, they all tried to bring those traditions. So I think as kids, like we have so many videos, and we're so lucky to have them of like my cousins and my aunts and my uncles and everybody just in somebody's backyard, and we're having a party and we're doing this and we're dancing our music and all of these amazing things. They were very present in our childhoods, even here. I'm in California, so even here. And then we grew up a little bit, and then I realized, oh, now it's our turn. So now I have nieces and nephews. It's the next generation. And I forgot, about a lot of these traditions until I went back and recognized like, oh, we used to do that as kids and we don't do it anymore. But there's this new generation that doesn't even know about it.
I'm so glad you touched on that because, I keep wanting to hold really strong to a lot of my heritage and implement it in my family. Like my kids are African American and Dominican. And there's a lot of things that I always come to terms with. Like, although I grew up a certain way, they're growing up very much different. And sometimes you do have like a loss of tradition and like the practice of it, meaning.
Sure.
And I think for me, it's like kind of interesting because this is what happened to you when you were in the States for a while, and then you decided to quit your 9 to 5 and just be like, I'm gonna just be off the grid. And I was like, was it that like you were reminiscing your childhood, or did you feel something was missing because you wanted to relive it again? And I know we've talked about it in the past, but I think it's so important for people to hear you say it, because I think it's kind of wild. While everyone else is worrying about rent and monies and funds, you're like, you know what? This doesn't serve me. I'm deciding I'm just going to say peace out, figure it out, and reconnect with my past. Like, and I think that's beautiful. And we have to kind of like laugh about it because in our sanest mind, we're like, wait, isn't she worried about bills?
Right.
So can you talk about it?
For sure. I mean, first of all, it was a trip, right? Like to make that decision, you're completely right about it. It was like one of the hardest things I ever did, but also one of the funniest. And the reason I think that is because my parents immigrated to this country primarily to give me a better education and better career opportunities. And here I graduated from college. I was working for a university. I was like I had everything that my parents wished for me, like we made it all happen. And then here I was telling them, oh, I'm about to quit my job and go back to the rancho where you guys left because I don't know, like, I
No,
didn't
wait.
even know.
Does the rancho have like running water? You know what I mean? Or was it like
Yeah.
everything like because that's how it would have been for my mom. Like, what?
Right.
You're gonna go back to the outhouse? You
Yeah.
have a bathroom?
Yes. No, thankfully we did have running water. A lot of it has been modernized, but it was still going backwards. Like when I
Yeah,
went,
yeah.
we had no Wi-Fi. I had no cell service. Like it was a dead zone. We had bathrooms, thank God, but like in my other grandma's house, we have an outhouse and the bathroom's outside. So it was like, reverting back to a different lifestyle. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so it was interesting for sure.
And that's what motivate you to start writing when you were like living there? Was
Yeah,
that how your story and journey started?
for sure. Because I think what I will say is I didn't go with the intention of like, oh, I'm going to go to Mexico and write a book. It was more like, I need a break. I'm tired of this rat race. I can't be on the hamster wheel anymore. I just like need to connect with what made me happy. And it was always traveling. So I went. The only thing I could afford was Mexico. you know, because I wouldn't. The thing about it, you talked about like bills and all these money concerns. At the time when I did this, I was single, no kids. Once I quit my job, no responsibilities. I stopped paying car insurance because I didn't take my car. The only thing I was paying for were like credit card bills and my cell phone. So with my savings, I was able to go and disconnecting from a lot of responsibility that's just a part of the race
Hmm.
brought me back to like this peace that I never had. And when I had that peace, I was writing every day. Like something simple as cooking breakfast for my grandparents would inspire me to write a piece about it, or going to visit my cousins, or seeing a rainbow outside after it rained. There's like so many simple little things that once I wasn't stressed out, I was able to pay attention, and that's what really started to inspire my writing.
I have to admit, and I know this happens to many people, we always wonder what would our life be like if we were like in a different place. And
Mm-hmm.
we've all had like these moments of thinking like that. But for people that have immigrated to this country, I think it happens way more because I
Mm-hmm.
always ask my mother, Mom, why didn't we stay? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
one of my biggest questions, even now as an adult, because she knows part of me always dreamed of living in Dominican Republic, like almost full
Mm-hmm.
time. And to hear someone doing that, going back, connecting to their culture, living there for a year or two at least to just try it out for size, right?
Mm-hmm.
And saying like, this is good. Like, I want to be like, it's almost like the reference, like I want to be bi-coastal, like how there's
Mm-hmm.
so many Americans that live half the year in one state and then the other half the year on the other side of the country. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like wonderful, but it's
Yeah.
the same experience for immigrant children, that are from a different country altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want to kind of touch on some other things that I think is just so impactful because I've learned so much from your experience. So when you wrote this book, you put it out there,
Mm-hmm.
and then what happened in your life? Like you put it out there and you had to talk about this book. And I
Mm-hmm.
know how transformative this book was in your life, but I want to hear like the stories that impacted you, that you help
Yeah.
people want to connect with, their own past.
Yeah. That's such a great question. Um, I think I think you're right about like the talking about the book because writing it's a very independent type of creative work where you can write whatever you want. And it could be impactful to you. Maybe you're processing your feelings or, writing down memories or whatever it might be for everybody. But the sharing part, that to me was probably one of the hardest things to do. I'm a self published author. So when I actually posted it, to go live, that was probably one of the scariest things, because that's like pouring your whole heart out there and seeing who likes the story and who doesn't, you know. Um, and eventually you get over that fear, because the right readers basically come and pick up your book and read it. And those are the ones that really make that impact. So I've been lucky. And I think in the time of like social media, it's very easy for people to connect, you know, with creatives, artists, writers, etc., and share what a piece of art or a piece of writing meant to them. And I would say some of the most impactful ones, I've had a few. I had one reader who read my book. I believe she's from my town as well. So I'm from Wilmington, California. So she read my book. And soon after, she went and visited her grandma in Mexico.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
That's touching.
Yeah, and I was able to see like a lot of her, you know, her social media posts, and I was just like, wow. And she gave me like a shout out of like her reading my book was part of that inspiration, right? And I had somebody else. I was in a podcast, a Latinx writers podcast, and I had such a great conversation with the host. And his dad was also from Mexico, and he hadn't gone back in a long time. And I guess the dad listened to the episode and was then inspired to return back to his motherland. And I was like, what? So he just like made a comment that sharing my story, you know, either verbally or through my book, that people, it like reignites something in them that maybe has been neglected or put off to the side. And now it makes people curious again of what would it be like. And I mean, I have several others. I had like I worked with students, and I had one student who went back as well. And as he was prepping for his trip, he was just like, you know, what do I do here? What do I do there? And then he shared some of the stories he heard from his grandparents. And I was like, wow, that is amazing. Like, I love hearing people ask the curious questions, especially if you still have abuelos, you know, grandparents that can share that wisdom with you.
Unfortunately, like I lost my grandmother as a teen, and if she would have been alive, I think not only I know my life would have been much different, but you know, I would have really soaked up all her knowledge. Because even when I was younger, one of the things I did, and I never forgot, I wrote down, you know, it was part of like a church requirement. I grew up Mormon, and family history is very big in the Latter-day Saint practice. So, you know, I was asking her questions about, you know, who your mom is, who's your mother's mother, and yada, yada. And then we got talking about her husband. And my grandfather had passed away before I was born. So she actually shared something with me, like touched me very deeply, because she shared with me that when she met her late husband, she was, I want to say like an adolescent, like 16, 17. She got married before she was 18, and they met at church. He only went to church for the purpose of wooing her. And once they got married, her whole life changed, because she was this illiterate woman who didn't know much of business world or anything like that, and married this man who was a lot older than her, and also a business person for the most part. So he was the head of household, and she was like pretty much like it was back in the day, just like, you know, holding it down with the kids. And she had 12 kids, and the 12th one didn't make it. So it was 11 kids. So talk about, you know, some like hardcore traditions. And I remember writing it down in my book, and like I really loved hearing her love story of how she fell in love. And I know if she would have been alive today, I would have asked her everything, like how was she like as a child? Those are the things I guess I didn't really think about. I was also a teen, you know, I thought I was going to have my grandmother forever. But moving on, one of the things I wanted to ask you about your book is, like, I know you're working on something pretty special, because your book is an award winner now. And if you could talk a little bit about that, because, you know, you just did a feat. You just You went to Mexico, you lived there, you like un-Americanize yourself and be like, nope, nope, nope. I'm not thinking anything American right now. Like, I'm not thinking about the rent, the credit card. I'm going to live off these savings. I'm not going to think about, I don't know, like Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi. And then after like enjoying that moment, you write a book. Then you have to talk about it, which is pretty hard. And then you go after saying like, no, this is an award winner. Like, how did that come about?
That's such an interesting question. I think I realized that I mean I was a avid reader. Like teenager, I was at the library checking out all the books. I was always reading. In this whole process, one of my uncles actually reminded me that when I would go to Mexico, I would take like a maleta, a luggage full of books. So I've always been a reader, and in the process of going to Mexico and writing about this experience, I knew it was very, very, very unique because I haven't read any books that go into the biculturalism of the being American, of going back to where you come from, of tying those two identities, of how do you use those two identities to then leap forward and empower yourself to do better, to, you know, and I think as a community of immigrants, we have those dreams and desires. And we almost like it's part of our blood, but we don't know how to use it, right? For me at least, it was until I went back and discovered this whole new aspect of my identity. And once I did that, I was like, wow, this is something special. And if I'm able to tie into both of these parts of me, it could go really far. And I think a lot of people haven't heard that, you know, in writing and dialogue. And when I shared like some of my like blog pieces, I was getting a lot of like people commenting and relating to it. So I honestly was on a roll of just like, okay, get my book out, promote it. Why not go for an award? And I think for me, it was just a matter of like taking that risk and seeing what other people thought of it.
I'm so glad you did, because I think one of the hardest things is that you write the book, you have to promote it, and then you are kind of scared to get a no when you go for an award. You know what I mean? Like, I know I've written books and I've been kind of scared to try out for those awards, because it's like a lot of categories that, you know, you're going up against a lot of talent out there. There's just some amazing talent. So if you could share, how did you kind of like pump yourself up a little bit more? Because I think it takes a lot of courage and we all need that. So what is it that you do to make yourself like, no, I am a badass writer, just how your bio says you're a badass. And I love the fact you're the first bio that uses that term. And I wish more people use those kind of adjectives to kind of reinforce that they are like, you know, like amazing individuals.
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think for me, one of the biggest lessons I got from like this whole process of quitting my job, going to Mexico, writing a book about it, and then, you know, applying for to be considered for an award, I think the common thread for all of them have been like a big leap of courage. And my biggest lesson was that the courage doesn't stem directly from me. It doesn't and it doesn't, because the way that I see it, it's kind of an inheritance that I gained from my family as well. You know, like it takes courage to cross the border through the desert and to come to a new country, right? So recognizing that, I was like, okay, courage runs through like many generations in my family. And I just need courage for that one moment, right? It's just like that one moment to submit and publish, that one moment to send that application, that one moment, like it's just like 10 seconds of courage is really all you need. Because I think if you're doing the work, you're already doing it, right? It's just a matter of stretching yourself a little bit more out there. And I think in addition to that, I also let go of like the outcome. I remember I submitted my book and I forgot about it. when I got the email that I got an award, I was like, congratulations for what? And it wasn't
Like you
until
had it twice, right? Like, hey, I think this went to my spam folder.
yeah.
Never seen it.
Yeah, I was like, what? Like, what did I do? What is this from? And I was like, oh my God. And then
Yeah, yeah.
once it clicked, I was like, okay. So I just kind of like, let it off, out into the universe, see what happened. And then it was a really nice surprise for me to get that email.
No, absolutely. I could just imagine. Did you hold several jobs? Like you took like almost like a year off when you were living
Mhm.
in Mexico, and then when you came back, did you decide to do one job, or did you do several jobs before you decided that you were gonna write a book?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I've had, I would say several. I've mostly worked in the nonprofit sector and in higher education. So I like my work has always been support um, people of color, youth of color who are striving to do better and get an education. That's what I've basically done since I've graduated. And what was crazy to me was that I was primarily serving my community, and even then I was getting burned out. And I was like, all right, there's something wrong with the system. But yeah, those have been my jobs. I worked for nonprofits, a university. I'm working at a university again. I worked at a nonprofit as soon as I got back. And what I will say about that is it's almost like a habit of like you have to be on the hustle because obviously I took 8 months of basically fun employment is what I called it. So there was no income coming in. When I got back, I had to work to like continue paying my bills. And I was actually pleasantly surprised by how many companies were open to the idea that I took 8 months off just to basically go on vacation. So it was kind of nice to see that. And just like not be afraid of. I was still scared when applying to jobs, like what are they going to say? But eventually, it was just a matter of how I talked about it, and that's really a matter of your storytelling. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
just how you do that.
I do have to agree. I remember when I had just graduated from my first 2 years of college, and I have an associate's degree from community college. It wasn't really community college; it was a state college. But anyways, I did the first 2 years, and I'm like, I don't want to finish 4 years out there. I want to come back home. And I
Mm.
think I had met this woman who talked about like I went to high school and I was going to start, like she finished high school. She did her first semester of college and she decided like, this is overwhelming. I want to backpack over Europe. And I
Mm-hmm.
was so mad at her. And you have to understand, I understand that this was like something that she was able to do. And it was kind of like a luxury. But the way
Mm-hmm.
she talked about it so like nonchalant, while every other person I knew was struggling to figure out college.
Yeah.
I was like, what? But I think it was when I hear your story, it's more relatable because you do come from that struggle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And and it was just to me it was just wild to hear someone backpacked over Europe, because they were able to afford it and put their college on hold.
Yeah.
I think for you it's just such an accolade to you because you had finished school, you had worked, and you just put it on pause because you really wanted to connect with your family. Like the
Mm-hmm.
goals were different. The goals were
Yeah.
definitely different. And I think that's why, like, your story is just so touching, because many people want that chance to be with family. Yeah, vacations are fun, but it's like, isn't family where the heart is at? Wouldn't you agree with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I love that. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for saying that, first of all, because it just touched my heart. And you bring such a good point that I'm now thinking of because when I first went to Mexico, I had that idea that I was going to backpack through Mexico. I was like, I'm going to go to Michoacan, then I'm going to go to Puebla, then I'm going to go to Oaxaca, and then I'm going to go even like to all these different places. But you're so right about the family aspect because
Yeah.
for me, I realized when I was over there, I was like, wow, my family in Mexico, they love me and they love me hard. And I spent the majority of my life not
Knowing.
experiencing that. Yeah.
Yeah, or not having those moments. I think
Yeah.
the reason I mentioned that was because I had this aha moment. My mom is she's a worldwide traveler. She loves traveling, getting to know cultures, getting to know people. And I think since, raising a family and like being very limited in the ability to do the things you wanted with
Mm-hmm.
5 children, and now that she's a retired person and she gets to travel as much as possible, she said something that was really touching one time. And it was like, I love to travel and experience a lot of things, but it's just travel. It's not like you being with your family. That's what really matters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. Like, I wouldn't, like, to me, that'll be hard to want to travel without my family, or without close friends, because life is about building those relationships. And the reason I'm mentioning all this is because that's what your book does.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about, and and we're not going to just concentrate on Mexico, even though I did concentrate a lot on Mexico because that is part of your story.
Mm-hmm.
But it was you tying back the relationship ties with some of the most important people in your life that
Mm-hmm.
you grew up hearing about, and having these experiences with them in a way that you can't replicate ever again. And some of us don't get a chance to do that, either because families are distant or, the
Mm-hmm.
ties are severed. And I really know that when you've shared about connecting with family, that it's something that not everyone could experience, but you still encourage them. And I
Mm-hmm.
applaud you for that, because you say in such a loving way, do it in baby steps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And you're so right. And I think the big message of my book is the family aspect, and tying to what you just shared. I think for me, like, I was a big world traveler and I stopped traveling the world because I knew, like, primarily the relationship with my grandparents was limited in time. And I was right. They passed away earlier this year. So for me, I had like about 3 years where I had a really good relationship with them. But if I would have not done this, it would have been a lost relationship. And for those who don't have the privilege of having like grandparents or a family, for all the reasons that you shared, I think the other message is that you can also create it. If you're having that next generation with your own kids or with nieces and nephews and whoever is now a part of your circle or family, you can still create those traditions with them.
Oh, so true. Thank you so much for touching on that. So before, this is something I ask a lot of my guests because I think it's really important. What do you know that you wish you knew before writing your first book and that becoming a part of your business?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think what I didn't know when I first published it, or I vaguely knew it, was the importance of community that's going to support your dream. So what I mean by that, it's like people who are writers, people who are entrepreneurs, people who are dreamers, like to really surround yourself with them, because I have some crazy ideas, like quitting my job and going to Mexico. And you need a lot of people.
No, not crazy. Not crazy. Please, I want to run away from home every now and then, especially when the kids are getting a little too wild.
Yeah, but I mean, having those people who are going to be like, wow, yeah, do it. And, like really be supportive. I think I've had amazing friends who have done that. But also people who are curious about what you're working on, like what's your next book, or what are you doing now, or, what are the ideas that you have and how can I support you? I think those are the people that really help with the momentum to keep you in that space.
Yeah, so what is your next book? Like, that was my leading question. What is the next project? What is the next trek to Mexico, and who are you trying to connect with?
Right.
Like,
so many questions. So many questions.
I know. I'll try to keep it short.
Okay. So I will say thanks to you. You have been a big influence and inspiration with this. I recognize that the next project that I have to work on is like the kids and the children's version of my story, because there's like so many people, and tied to a lot of the work that you do, that there's not a big representation of Latinos or people of color. And you have been like a tremendous inspiration in that, to make that a part of my project as well, to open up that story and share, with children, the next generation.
Thank you for saying that. You're making me a little emotional because, I go to you for a lot. Like, what do you think about this? Does it sound crazy? But I don't know. I just saw it in you. And I know I do see that the day that you do write a children's book, I'm just going to celebrate so hard, because I know that I just see you doing it. Like, I see that for you. And I can't wait for it to be completed, because I feel like you're going to inspire a lot of Black and brown kids to travel. I mean, there was a time where you didn't even hear about Black and brown families traveling, or at least they couldn't travel because of, well, racism. And now that we have the ability to do so, I want that to be, I want kids to see the world and experience other brothers and sisters that look like them in different countries and different languages.
Yeah.
Any resources or places that help creatives get into writing that you want to share? Because I know you know a lot of them.
I think I know a handful. I wish there were more. And I think that's gonna be kind of like our mission, the up and coming writers and the people who are creating these stories and putting them out there. Once we support each other, we build those networks for like the people who are going to be next, right? But I know like one of them is Latinx in publishing. I've seen a lot of resources there. I'll even like generalize this whole platform, but like Instagram is one that I use very heavily. That's where I found my illustrator for my cover. That's where I've built some really awesome connections and some communities as well. That's where I found a lot of my supportive communities that have like supported, my writing and ideas that I've had. So all of those are really, a big part of them. I know I've learned from you, about Dominican writers, and I would say there's also Latinx, and I can't remember the Facebook name of this group, but
Latina authors.
Yes, Latina authors.
Writer.
But
I think Squibby is another big one, and I always say it wrong. It's Squibby or whatever, but like it's all over the United States, and there's chapters, and I believe it's worldwide. But like they have a huge online presence. They have a lot of chapter leaders in different regions, and they have meetings. I believe is either once a month or once every other month. I wouldn't say quarterly, but it's like when authors and illustrators get together, especially for the self-published, because as as people know, a lot of authors are becoming more self-published than going the traditional route. And I'm pretty sure in the next 10 years, the face of publishing is going to change altogether.
For sure.
Than what we see now. And that's kind of exciting in my thoughts, because it's like we're giving more opportunities for people to be creative and to think outside the box. Hopefully, who knows, but this will inspire new ways to problem solve that we never thought of. So I've asked you all my serious questions, but I do want to close the episode getting to know you a little bit more. And I usually ask these questions at the end. So I'm going to ask you finish the sentence, and you have to say the first thing that pops into your head, okay?
Okay.
My dream vacation is?
Santorini, Greece.
Oh my gosh, I've been feeling Greece.
The food, the man.
I want to eat a gyro. Like I was looking at TikTok and they were saying like gyros here are a waste of time. The best gyros are in Greece. And I was like, really? Like, and I'm such a foodie now. I've been curious ever since. Okay,
Yeah.
I can't live without
My
something
laptop.
you can't live without. Well, that's a good one.
Yeah. And I think for other reasons, like that would be the thing I rescue if there's a fire, because it has like all my pictures, all my writing, like all the music I've ever listened to. So it has like every.
Hello? Hello, Myra?
Yeah,
Myra?
she's still there. She may have
Yes,
put herself on mute.
I'm here.
Oh, good. I thought we lost you for a
I think
second.
it paused for like a second for me.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, my biggest inspiration is?
My abuela, my grandma. She is my
Amen.
biggest inspiration. Yeah.
And people describe me as?
People describe me as, I want to say down, like for everything, and inspirational.
Oh my gosh, yes. So I want to close the episode saying that I have to add another couple words to people describe you as. I'll say fun. Also, the person that really motivates others to go for what they want, because through my experience of knowing you, you have made this whole movement of people doing whatever it is that their soul is like, gravitating towards. So you are a force, and I'm so grateful for knowing you as a friend and also being the leader that you are as a writer. And I know in my heart that everything else you touch is going to just build more community. So I thank you for joining us as a guest, and this has been so much fun, and I really want you to share where could people find you so they could find your book and also continue to follow all your great work.
Thank you so much, Luz. I always love talking to you. So thank you so much again for having me. And anybody could find me on Instagram. It's aventura.tacos. Wait, no, I forgot the title of my book. Look at that. It's
Aventura, Amor y Tacos.
Amor y Tacos.
I think there's a mojito calling your name.
It is.
But it's work, tomorrow is work day for some of us.
Yes. So that is where I am on Instagram primarily, and then you can find my book on Amazon.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Maira, and thank you, everyone. I hope everyone has a wonderful night. Good night.
That brings us to the end of our Inspiration Hour with Luz, and I hope you're feeling unstoppable. If you enjoy our show, please follow me on Instagram or Facebook at LuzMacOfficial, or check out my website at www.luzmac.com. Review, like, and heart us. And don't forget to spread the inspiration with others. And be sure to come back next week as I help you find your inspiration in the little things, one talk at a time.